I still remember that night, the sound of my phone ringing at 2 a.m. and the cold, creeping realization that something was terribly wrong. My name is Clara Morgan, and this is the story of how my family betrayed my daughter, and how that betrayal changed everything. It started as what they called a bonding trip. My father's idea, of course. He always believed pain built character, because that's how he was raised. And in his mind, it worked. He grew up on the outskirts of Ridgevale, a small town surrounded by endless pine forests. He used to tell stories about hunting wolves, sleeping under the open sky, learning to survive. And he expected everyone else in the family to be just like him, especially me. But I was never like him. I was quiet, thoughtful, sensitive. He called that weak. When I had my daughter, Sophie, I promised myself things would be different. She was 17 now, bright, creative, with this spark that reminded me of everything I used to be before my father broke it out of me. But he never stopped judging. He said I was raising her soft, that she needed discipline, and my older brother Mark always took his side. So when they suggested taking Sophie on a weekend camping trip to toughen her up, I hesitated, but they swore it would be safe. They said she'd come back stronger, more confident. I wanted to believe them. I wished to God I hadn't. The first night she was gone, I couldn't sleep. Something in my gut felt wrong. By morning, I sent her a text, "Did you sleep okay?" No answer. Then another. Then 10 more. Still nothing. By the afternoon, panic began to rise in my chest. Mark finally picked up my call, his voice calm, almost annoyed. "She's fine, Clara. Stop worrying. She needed a little push, that's all." "A push?" I repeated. "What does that mean?" She froze up when it got dark, started crying. Dad thought it'd be good for her to face her fears alone for a bit. I felt the world tilt. "What do you mean, alone?" "Mark, where is she?" "In the woods," he said, as if it was the most normal thing in the world. I grabbed my keys and drove. I don't remember the road, just the blur of headlights and the pounding in my ears. They had taken her to Hollow Creek National Forest, a dense, sprawling maze of trees and cliffs. Wolves had been sighted there that winter. When I reached the ranger station, I could barely speak. I told them my family had left a teenager alone somewhere in the woods. The rangers looked horrified. They called it what it was, child endangerment. It took 4 hours to find her. 4 hours of searching, shouting her name into the cold night, until finally, one of the dogs started barking near a ravine. And there she was, sitting under a tree, trembling, her clothes torn, eyes red from crying. When she saw me, she whispered, "Mum." I ran to her, dropped to my knees, and she collapsed into my arms, sobbing. She kept saying the same thing over and over. "They left me. They really left me." At the hospital, the doctor said she was dehydrated, exhausted, and had early signs of hypothermia. But physically, she would recover. Emotionally, that was another story. For days, she barely spoke. When she finally did, what she told me shattered everything I thought I knew about my family. That morning in the woods, she had begged them not to leave her. She told my father she was scared, that she could hear growling in the trees. He laughed. Mark told her to stop acting like a baby. Then they drove away, leaving her with nothing but a backpack, a flashlight, and a bottle of water. She tried to follow the road, but got lost. Her phone died. When she heard the wolves, she climbed a tree and stayed there until she couldn't hold on anymore. That's where they found her, half a mile from the trail. When my father came to the hospital, I refused to let him in. He said I was overreacting. He said she needed to learn how the world works. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about Sophie, it was about me. About every cruel word, every silent punishment, every moment he'd made me feel worthless growing up. This wasn't discipline, it was control, it was abuse. And I wasn't going to let it continue. I filed a report the next day. child endangerment, neglect. I gave the police everything: my daughter's statement, hospital records, the ranger's notes. My family turned on me instantly. Mom called me hysterical, begging me to drop the case. Mark threatened to make things hard for me. Dad said if I went through with it, I'd be cut off. But I didn't care. They had already taken enough from me. Weeks passed. The investigation dragged on. Sophie started therapy, but every night she woke up screaming. Every loud noise made her flinch. And then, one afternoon, I got a call from a lawyer. He represented my late grandfather's estate. Apparently, there was something in his will that had never been finalized. A clause. It stated that the family home, the one my father lived in, the one he always lorded over everyone, could only remain in his name if he upheld his duty to protect the family and its heirs. If he failed in that duty, ownership would legally revert to the next generation, to Sophie. I stared at the document, my hands shaking. For the first time, I had leverage. I called my lawyer, and together we prepared to challenge the inheritance. When the court date came, my father arrived with his usual arrogance. Mark smirked, whispering something under his breath. But when my lawyer presented the evidence, the police report, the ranger's testimony, the hospital files, the room went silent. The judge looked at my father and said, "Mr. Morgan, do you understand that your actions directly endangered the welfare of your granddaughter?" For once, he had no words. The case was settled privately. The house, the symbol of generations of pride and cruelty, was transferred to a trust in Sophie's name. My father moved out within a month. Mark stopped calling altogether, and slowly, the silence that used to terrify me started to feel like peace. It's been 2 years now. Sophie is in college. She still carries the scars, nightmares, flashes of fear, but she's healing. We go hiking sometimes, not deep into the woods, just enough to feel the wind, to remind ourselves we can walk freely now. One day she asked me, "Mom, do you think Grandpa ever really loved you?" I thought about it for a long time, and then I said, "No, but I think he loved the idea of who he wanted me to be." And I stopped trying to be that person. Last week, I drove past the old house. The paint was peeling. The porch light was broken. It didn't look powerful anymore. It just looked empty. I sat there for a while, thinking about the girl I used to be, the one who never spoke up, the one who thought survival meant silence. And then I realized, we survived, yes, but now we're finally living. Sometimes people say forgiveness is freedom. Maybe they're right. But for me, freedom came from finally saying, enough. From protecting my daughter in the way no one ever protected me. From breaking the cycle that had ruled my family for generations. The day I signed the papers, releasing that house, that name, that past, I didn't just win a case. I reclaimed my life. And in that moment I knew there's nothing stronger than a mother who's done being afraid.